Mir Hashem, we're starting Siman Chaf Hey in Maamar Shalosh Shevuos. V'hinei bevadai. Now the subject here is that in Siman Chaf Daled, the Rebbe brought down Rashi's pshat in the Shevuos Shelo Yichikus HaKetz, which is Tefillah, and the other pshat, which is the Rambam, the Midrashim, and the Targum Yonasan, that it means actions. So now he's going to say there's a big difference between actions and prayer, because prayer is not doesn't show that you're not a Maamin. It shows that you are a Maamin. It shows that you do believe in Hashem. Actions is more of a kfir thing. So take a look at what he says.
Makes sense, because actions are physical act. Feel is a speech. Because either go their shek, the action go more against the shek because they're physical.
He says, "V'hinei bevada yesh chiluk bein oisin hanyanim." There's a difference between these two things. The oisin peulos be'atzmam l'geula. When Jews do an action towards the redemption, terem shematzu chazoin me'es Hashem, before they have a nevuah from Hashem, shehigi hazman, that the zman has come. Havi bazech chisar namuna. That shows a lack of faith, lack of belief. Kedamatzinu gam b'vnei Ephraim b'shir shirim beis al b'nei Ephraim shetov b'cheshbon. We find that the b'nei Ephraim were also accused of having a lack of emunah, because they made a mistake in their cheshbon, they made a mistake in their calculation of the time. They counted from the bris ben Besarim, but in reality it was supposed to start from the birth of Yitzchak. The cost of Sham b'medrash Rabbi shenaflu mehem chalalim harbe. That many of them died. They didn't believe in Hashem, they didn't trust in His Yeshua. Al she'avru al ketz v'avru al shvuah. But these kasha sham marash yafa b'yafei koil. Rabbi Shmuel ben Yitzchak Yafi from Constantinople, Yafei Koil, asks on this: the kivan shahaya toas ulefi cheshboina migia haketz. Since they really made a mistake here, it wasn't such a terrible thing what they did. You know, they didn't think that they were going to go against Hashem. They just said, "This is the time." Higia haketz amar b'Torah mishanibur bein habesarim. My shna, my shaloi haminu. What's pshat that they didn't believe? Adrab and Yirmiyahu minu b'dvarai. They believed in Hashem's word and His promise to Avraham. Ubatchu b'shuasei. They trusted that He was going to save them. Lefi machshavdim, according to what they thought. Ve'en kan aveira lo al haketz v'lo al shvuah. Elatos b'alma. It's not that they transgressed the oath; it's that they just made a mistake. The Tiritz, the Marash Yafa answers, the af shalafi cheshboinam higia zman. Even though they thought this man had come, they should have waited until a nevuah came from Shemaim to tell them this is the zman. Not to go and just fight a war with their own sword in their own hands. And that's the famous thing that, you know, there was a Messiah that whoever comes and says Pekoi Pekadati is going to be the real Goel from Mitzrayim. So they had to wait for someone to come and say that.
And that was Moshe Rabbeinu.
Right.
And even Moshe Rabbeinu said they might not believe me. Even Hashem don't have to show him a sign, because anyone can say Pekadati. So even Moshe knew that he has to show proof that he's indeed the one sent to redeem them. Because even Moshe was not wrong for saying they'll doubt me.
Okay, since they thought they were going to conquer it with their own hands, they didn't believe in Hashem's command, which was in his redemption. They weren't afraid of His shvuah. That they shouldn't arouse themselves to go out before the desire. By the way, the Meshech Chachma in Parshas Vayechi, on the pasuk that by Yashba Yosef as Bnei Yisrael, Yosef made the Jews swear. Meshech Chachma brings the Shalosh Shevuos. He says this was the Shalosh Shevuos. Basically, Yosef made the Yidden swear before he died that they wouldn't go out of the Galus until someone would come and say Pekoi Pekati. Meshech Chachma. Since they didn't find a nevuah from Hashem, they should have concluded from that they were wrong about the time. They made a mistake in their calculation. Okay, now there's another source about the Bnei Ephraim in Mechilta, Parshas B'Shalach, right?
Yeah.
It's a pasuk in Tehillim. They didn't want to keep the covenant of Hashem, and they didn't want to follow His Torah. I'm going to explain this further later on, and he means in Siman base. Just peek ahead 2 pages here. Siman Lamed Beis, end of the first paragraph. He says, Gam Sarach Lahavin, Masha Darshu b'Mechilta Parshas B'Shalach Al B'nei Ephraim Shemi Haru Latzei Shloi Shamru B'Is Elokim V'Saras Manu Lechas. Haloi, Hay is Koyim Matan Torah, V'Loi Hay Lahem Adayin Torah. Yeah, how could it say that for going out of Mitzrayim early they were not keeping the Torah?
There was no Torah. There was no Torah yet.
There was no Shevuos. There was no Torah at all. That's a
good point, because there was no Torah yet.
Right. So this is going to be a main theme in Vayoel Moshe, that he's going to discuss that the Shevuos go deeper than just Torah. It goes deeper than just the Shevuah, and it's more of an Indian of Kfirah in Hashem's Yeshua.
Because even a guy is not to be quite fair in Hashem.
Right, so it's not a din of Torah.
Well.
So now, that's what he means that you can explain this later. Al Kapanim Chazinin de'af b'vnei Ephraim. I'm back in Chav Ches now.
Yeah.
We see from this that even the Bnei Ephraim, Shaloi Haya Elatos, that was only a mistake. Mikol Makom Kivan Shehu Tois Hanogei Le'amuna. Since their mistake had to do with Amuna, Kara Aleim Esaksub Manal. The pasuk says these strong words about them. The nen shubaynish mar Rahman al-Itzlan. They were punished very, very severely. When we kol shekain the ketz gula shehu tamir v'nelam. Kol shekain in the current exile and the current gula that's going to be coming soon, but it's completely hidden from us. We have no idea any kind of cheshbon at all. But when Yisgala afilu Nevi'im, even the Nevi'im didn't know. Ve'ein lanu shum yediyah. We have no knowledge. Ve'af ein makom l'tois. We can't even make a mistake like Bnei Ephraim made. We just have to look up to Hashem. She is galalanu min hashemayim. Then the Geula should come from Shemayim al pi derech haTorah v'Hamesorah, in the Torah way, not the way that the Tzionim do it. Yeah. So im kain ein shum safek she'asiyas pe'ula kala. There's no doubt that doing any small action kol shehi lenatseach b'zoy baser to try to conquer the land with our hands. Terem she'igi azman, before the zman comes, who neged ha'amuna b'Hashem u'b'Torah ha'ekdosha. It's against Hashem and the Torah. Ka'asher yispar lahala and kol zeh barichus. I'm going to explain this much more at length. Okay, so that's all according to the Medrash, who says that the Shevuos are a action, right? Ulam lefi pirish Rashi zal, but according to Rashi, he says that the Shevuah is astering tefillah. Shevuah shalai yilchu kisakei tanya shalai yarba b'tachanunim yoisnim yidai. But zel lechoyer b'adei ein chisar nemuna. It doesn't show a lack of faith if you daven too much. The haloi adrabba harehu marba b'tachanunim. Rak lifnei Hashem yisbarach. He's only asking Hashem for the gula. Sheishlach lanu goel tzedek. Im kein havi zeh amuna gedoyel b'Hashem yisbarach. That shows his great belief. Why should it be usher to do this? You have to explain, according to Rashi, that he means the that even this HaKadosh Baruch Hu ashered. The Hashem in His wisdom saw that anyone who forces the end before its time, it won't lead to good for the Jews.
Yes, the priest. Yes, the priest brings death. That's why Moshe didn't continue to pray, because he knew, but even for him, it wasn't good to end.
That's a good example of how it's possible to have too much prayer. You see,
even Moshe Rabbeinu knew it wasn't good for him to enter at that point. He knew he has the power to, but he therefore stopped and applied to us all the more so. Who are like Moshe, we shouldn't force the end our tefillah. Because even Moshe knew it wasn't good for him.
Right, so there's such a thing.
Because Moshe knew if he were to enter, and there would be a basic big forever, it would be good for Klal Yisrael.
Right, so therefore it's not good to bring the Gula before it's time.
Even for Moshe, it wasn't good for him to enter Eretz Yisrael. That's why he stopped looking at the power to enforce his tefillah.
Okay, Moshe hevi Rashi zal b'parshas Lech Lecha al kasu vayered ha'ayit. By the Bris Ben V'Sarim, Avraham Avinu slaughtered animals, put them on the ground. And then the birds came down to try to eat up the animals. Vayashev Vayisam Avram, and Avram chased them away. The Ha'ayit Nikra Ben David. The birds that came down was a marshal for Ben David.
I guess a vulture.
Vulture, right? Upal Avram Shlo Yanichu Aisai. I don't know why he says Ben David. I think it's David HaMelech, because Ben David, when Mashiach comes, that's when it's supposed to happen. But Avraham Avinu stopped that they shouldn't let him destroy the nations, shouldn't let David destroy the nations until Mashiach comes. Avraham Avinu wasn't coming to save the Umois, because he knew that wasn't the right time. Now this Siman is foreshadowing what the Rebbe is going to say much later. In Siman Ayin Tes, he brings down the Rav Shlomo Kluger. You know, there's a famous thing that the Zionists want to say that the Shevuos are dependent on each other. If the Goyim violate theirs, we can violate ours.
Yes.
So there is no makor for this. But
of course not.
But there is a Rav Shlomo Kluger on the Haggadah that he brings in Ayin Tes, who says that the Shevuos shelo yidchuku sakate, which means not to daven too much, is dependent on the Shevuos of the nations. Take a look in Ayin Tes, very long Siman, page Tzadik Ches.
And do you write in your book if the Jews violate their oaths and the Goyim are able to violate their oaths, it could?
Yeah, that's the other way around. That's the Alshich. That's the Alshich.
So that in your book.
Yeah. Okay, so in paragraph starting B'ko'es, Haruni b'sefer Maaseh de Yoitzer al Haggadah me'agoin marashak mibrodi. The Rav Shlomo Kluger, he says, "B'piska v'yaslachat seinu ze'adchak shekasav sham derushim al Haggadah shkedarko uve'emtza drush ishtamish b'zeh shelo yiyu Yisrael ru'im l'geula." That he says the Jews weren't really fit to have a redemption at that time. El machmas za'akosam l'Hashem nigalu koydem azman. That the Geula Mitzrayim took place before the time because they davened so much. They cried out to Hashem. V'heir the zehav zaka yois nimidai. So the Reb Shlomo Kluger asks, how could they do that? It was davening too much for the Geula. The Oster l'das Rashi zal. It's Oster according to Rashi. El kevan shamitzrim avru al shvuasam. Since the Mitzrayim went overboard in the Shibud, huter gam lahem lizoik. It was permitted for them also to cry out, Kol Kach Hashem Yisborach.
They cried out, they didn't rebel or try to escape.
No, they didn't try to escape, but they cried out. That's what he's saying. Right, that's what you said, right?
Yeah.
So he's saying that the Shvuah, so that not to pray too much, that has to do with the Shvuah of the Umois. That could taka bitoli zebazeh, because it's not an action. It doesn't show kfir. It just shows that you're bringing the kates before the time.
If a guy is praying, you're praying to Hashem. There's no kfir. Either you're showing Hashem that you want you to do the part, not me. So this has to be a Gimel Zion's belief.
Right. And by the way, the Medrash Rabbah on Shir Shirim, if you look on page 1 of the Maamar, just very quickly, he says, Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina says that there are two oaths. I don't have this highlighted. But it's here someplace here. Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina Amar Shtei Shevuos yesh kan. There are two oaths. It's like the sixth line down on page 1. Achas l'Yisrael v'achas l'umas olam. One for the Jews, one for the Goyim. Nishbal l'Yisrael shelo yimrdu ol malchus. They can't rebel against the nations. V'nishbal malchus shelo yakshu ol Yisrael. They can't put their yoke upon the Jews too much. She'imakshim ol Yisrael hein goyim l'kates labay shaloi v'aynasai. The Goyim are going to cause the kates to come before it's time. Mm-hmm. So that's the same Indian as this. If they do too much, then the Geula will come before it's time. We're allowed to daven for that. That's Rav Shlomo Kluger. But that's all within the confines of Emunah, but not to go and do an action, because an action is oster until Hashem Yisborach sends us the Nevuah. Okay, Ad Kan, Shkoyach.
Sure.